Welcome to Reckless Paradise, everyone. I am your host, Marissa. I'm here with my co-host, Dystro. Say hi.
Hello, everyone.
Happy Thursday, everybody. I hope everybody is having a good week. We're almost halfway through November already, which is insane to say right now.
Hmm. It's just what, like 14 days, 25 till Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about Thanksgiving. That's coming up at the end of the month. Holy crap.
Turkey season.
Jeez. Turkey season. Oh my god, we definitely get to do some Thanksgiving stuff as we get closer to the holiday. Um,
Hmm.
But yeah, I hope everybody's having a good week. Um, Again, I hope y'all are still trying to adjust to the whole time change here over here in the States. I am dead tired right now. I'm not even going to lie. I am dead tired as I'm recording this. It's the fucking time change. It's messing me up because it gets dark early, so I'm getting tired quicker.
Yeah.
That's just happening. Oh god. But anyways, thank you guys for joining. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Get a snack, get a drink, get a kiss a girl, kiss a guy, whatever you gotta do. Enjoy the fucking show. Um,
Oh boy. Stirring up.
anyway, yeah, we're starting off hot. Anyways, so tonight we are bringing back debate hour.
Debate hour.
Dun dun dun.
Dun,
Yes,
dun.
debate hour is making a comeback. I believe the last time we did debate hour, I believe it was Apple versus Android, which was either a month or two ago. So I figured
Hmm.
we'd bring it back with a really hot topic. Yes, this is probably going to be one of the biggest debate hours we've done yet. Right next to Sammy versus David for Van Halen. If you guys haven't seen that, go check that out. We did that back in August over the summer when we did the Van Halen stuff. Go check that out. One of my favorite episodes of all time we've done on this channel. Till now. This might be my new favorite. So, if you guys remember us mentioning previously, we are massive AC/DC fans. And we have spent the past several weeks listening to every single AC/DC album known to man. We're only through 8 albums right now, and there's 17 in total. So we're about at the halfway mark. So we've had enough experience with these albums between two lead singers. So why not put them head to head in this debate hour? Yes, we are doing Bon Scott versus Brian Johnson. Both are lead singers of AC/DC. One obviously is no longer with us. The other one is still rocking and rolling up to this day. Even though he's like, I think he's in his 70s now, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, like for close to like 3 decades now. Yeah.
So, what we usually do in debate hour, we take our two competitors, put them head to head. We talk about each competitor respectfully. Um, Obviously, I think tonight we're going to start with Bond because it'd be logical to start with Bond because he was what
The first one.
started ACDC pretty much.
Mm.
So, yeah, so that's what we're going to do. And then at the end, we will decide who we kind of choose, I guess. Basically, who we choose over the other.
Now, are we not going to mention um like is it like there was like another lead singer that took over ACDC for a little bit? Or is it just Bon and then Brian?
Yeah, so we're basically focusing on the two main lead singers. We're not going to focus on Axel, who took over for Brian temporarily because Brian had to step away in 2014 due to hearing loss. But before Bon had joined in 1974, there was another lead singer of AC/DC. I'm going to look it up. Yes, his name was Dave Evans. He was in AC/DC for only 1 year. They kind of got rid of him because he didn't really fit the part. There is music out there though, floating around on YouTube. There is a version of "Can I Sit Next to You, Girl," originally from the album High Voltage. There is a version floating around on YouTube with Dave Evans singing it instead of Bon Scott. You guys should definitely go check that out.
Hmm.
It's a completely different vibe. It's kind of cool actually to see AC/DC before AC/DC. You know, it's like Billy Talent before Billy Talent. Um, but yeah, so let's get into Bon Scott. So yes, we are focusing on just Bon and Brian because these are like the two main singers that everybody knows well enough at this point. So
Right.
like I had mentioned, Bonnet stepped into the picture in 1974. Prior to joining, he was in a couple other groups, I believe. In a few other groups.
Yeah, let
Oh,
me look it up real quick.
yeah, I got it right. You want me to just go ahead and read it off?
Yeah, you go ahead, because you got more notes than me.
Yeah, I took my notes the other day. So he was in about three other groups: the Valentines, the Spectors, and Fraternity. Now, I've heard of none of these groups.
Me neither.
Obviously, none of these groups made it to the big time kind of thing. So, but Bond has had some vocal experience in other groups prior to AC/DC. He jumped into the picture in 1974 after they had gotten rid of Dave Evans because they feel like Dave Evans did not have the same charisma or spunk or vocal sound that Bond did. Also, what is that noise? Is that your mic?
Oh, so can you hear something in the background?
Yeah, I can hear you like.
It's just lo-fi radio beats in the background. That's why. Hey guys, set the mood, man. You know.
ASMR with Dystro, part 4. Um, but yeah, so Bonus has definitely had some vocal experience in the past. He was with AC/DC up until 1980, unfortunately, when he had tragically passed away at the age of 33 due to acute alcohol poisoning. Now, Bon was a heavy, heavy drinker. What was I gonna say? Also, Dystro, I think that's your breathing I can hear in the mic.
Well, yeah. I mean, I gotta breathe. Duh.
Breathe harder. Okay, I'm kidding. Um, oh God, this is a mess. But so when Bond passed, it kind of shook the core of AC/DC forever. Now, mind you, Bond had been on only the first 5 albums of AC/DC, and there is a total of 17 albums by AC/DC. So in a way, I feel like a lot of us fans did not get as much exposure to Bon Scott as we should have, because unfortunately he had passed. Um, he made it to High Voltage, Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, Let There Be Rock, Powerage, and Highway to Hell. With Highway to Hell being the last album he was on. His last performance with AC/DC was in 1980. This is the same year that they recorded Back in Black, which is kind of weird to think about because at that same year, they replaced Bon Scott, which we will get into him in a little bit. Um, but wow, like I still like yeah, I wasn't born back then. But I could just like imagine how shook to the core a lot of these AC/DC fans were when Bond had passed. Like it was completely unexpected. Nobody was expecting this to happen.
Right. And plus, it's like within that circle too. It's like Angus, Malcolm, and all of them. So that's like it shook them to their cores as well, because it's like they've gotten to know this guy over several years and recorded 5 albums with him and went on tour with him and stuff like that and did live shows and all that stuff. And it's like they probably got to like have a tight net of friends and loved ones within that circle. And it's just like if someone just passes away in that circle, it's like they all like crumble sort of thing.
Right. Now when Malcolm and Angus went to Bond's funeral, Bond's parents were there. They actually asked Bond's parents what they should do next, and they said, "Keep going. It's what Bond would want." They wouldn't want them to stop the show just because Bond had passed. Bond would want them to keep going, so that's what they did.
Mhm.
Which we will get into that. Um, so with Bond, he was known for his raw vocal range and his charisma on stage. He was very energetic. He's like another David Lee Roth kind of thing, if you think about it from Van Halen. Very
Right.
energetic, very yes, like groovy, like that kind of thing. Um, I actually found this out and I was actually very surprised about this. He was ranked number 1 on a list of 100 greatest frontmen of all time in a July 2004 issue of the magazine known as Classic Rock. I've never heard of this magazine. Kind of interested in looking into it a little bit more because I'm interested in rock magazines like the Rolling Stones magazine, stuff like that, Kerrang, Alternative Press, just to name a few. So I might look at this one. That's very interesting though. He was ranked number 1 out of 100. Like that's insane.
Yeah. I just wanted to share this like little article that I found, and I happened to just look up like, because like there's like always that debates like Bon Scott's the better front man or Brian Johnson's the better front man. Like there was a article that I found just the other day to as as I always do. I always try to find stuff that and it says, AC/DC fans are a very large, loyal, and unified family. So there's only really one debate that could possibly divide them. Who's the better frontman, Bon Scott or Brian Johnson? It says, well, obviously Scott, who fronted the band during their meteoric rise to fame in the 70s, and Johnson, who helped carry the group into new heights for the past 3 decades, which we will get to Brian Johnson in a little bit. Both rule, but this is for the sake of a good pub argument. They asked 2 writers to each take on one side of the debate, and so this is what the one writer said about Bon Scott being better than Brian Johnson. Excuse me. It says Brian Johnson walked into one of the saddest and most difficult situations in rock history when he took over AC/DC's singer following the sudden and tragic death of Bon Scott. And for more than 30 years, he has done an amazing job helping the band move forward, become global superstars, and remain one of the most popular in the world. But he'll forever be operating in the shadow of Scott, whose wit, charisma, and talent helped create the identity and template the band still uses to this day.
Wow. I think I might have seen that article on Facebook as well. I just didn't read it, obviously. I saw something about how Brian has kind of filled in the shoes for Bond over the past 30, 40 years now.
Yeah, 3 decades, yeah.
Like, wow, it's insane to think about. And the thing is, Bond and Brian knew each other. Bond had met Brian before. And actually, Bond told the Young Brothers if something was to happen to Bond, you need to check this guy out. He was from a group called Geordie, I think that's how you pronounce it at the time. And I guess somebody had sent in a like letter or a cassette tape to the Young Brothers shortly after Bond died, reminding them to check out this guy from Geordie. So now we get into Brian Johnson. Also, before we do that, when you think of Bon Scott, what is one song that comes to your mind first from that era?
It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll.
Oh, okay, so you're hitting with the high voltage stuff. Okay. The same ballpark because I was thinking of Can I Sit Next to You Girl from High Voltage.
Can I sit next to you, girl?
I love Bon Scott's version more than Dave Evans, obviously. So that's kind of the first song I think of when it comes to Bon.
Right. A little update on the Brian Johnson age, and he is 75.
Wow. And he's still fucking rocking.
Yeah!
So now we get into Brian. So, 1980 hits, Bon Scott passes away. Malcolm and Angus are without a singer. They get reminded that Bon had told them to check out this guy from Geordie. So, they get a hold of him and they bring him into audition, and it's like a match made in heaven. It's like they found their guy. And Brian Johnson was officially named new lead singer of AC/DC in 1980, which, honestly, that is huge. He went from being in a band that didn't really hit it off to one of the most biggest rock groups of this modern day era, and forever will be one of the biggest rock groups of all time. So once Brian had joined AC/DC in 1980, they finished recording Back in Black. That right there is one of the biggest albums to ever come out of AC/DC. Probably is the biggest album to come out of AC/DC, which is crazy. This album was dedicated to Bon, so I can see why it'd be something big. Um, Now,
Mm.
not only was he on Back in Black, he was featured on a lot of other AC/DC albums, pretty much everything from 1980 to present day. I'm gonna read them off real quick. Back in Black, For Those About to Rock, We Salute You, Flick of the Switch, Fly on the Wall, literally my favorite fucking album right now. Um, Who Made Who, Blow Up Your Video, The Razor's Edge, Ball Breaker, Stiff Upper Lip, Black Ice, Rock or Bust, and Power Up. Power Up is their most recent album that dropped in 2020, and it is a fucking banger. I have that album, and I'm so glad to say I do. I actually bought it for my dad as a little surprise gift earlier this year. I love that album, and it just goes to show that even though you're in your 70s, doesn't mean you still can't rock and roll. Dead serious. Like now, like these older folks are the cool people, you know, and it's just like, yes, like don't let rock die, and that's my motto. Don't let rock die. Rock will never die. I don't care what people say. I don't care if people are fucking hip hop worshippers, pop worshippers. No, I firmly stand by my statement. Rock will never die. As long as ACDC still exists, rock will never die. And even when all the bandmates are long and gone, ACDC still fucking exists.
Yeah, through the annals of time, yeah.
Yes. So Bon, like I said, Bon and Brandon knew each other very well. And if it wasn't for Bon, chances are the Young brothers probably wouldn't have found Brian.
Yeah, it's just a coincidence sort of thing too, because it's like I guess they could have probably have met Brian like in like outings or something. Since like you said, Bon and Brian knew each other, so it's like they could have probably saw Brian and been like, hey, what's up, man? Just being like on a public outing or something like that, and just having, have a good time with the boys and stuff like that, and just chit chatting and stuff like that. And it's just it's like, all right, like this is our new lead singer now. It's like, like you got to know him a little bit more and all that stuff, and so it's like, hey, that's how the world works. It's like you have friends who are friends with other people, and it's like if that you know friend had passed away, it's like I'm kind of glad that they didn't stop, because if they did, it's like we probably best rock and roll group of all time.
Yeah, they wouldn't have made the rest of these albums that came out after 1980. And I'm just glad that AC/DC still exists up to this day. We don't know what's going to happen with AC/DC now. Like, we're still waiting on word for a tour for the new album Power Up, which dropped 2 years ago as of November, I think November 13th, maybe, which is coming up. But yeah, I remember when that album came out, it actually shot up the charts to number one almost fucking immediately. Like, overnight, it shot to number one. It was crazy, and I love it. It's really, really good. So Brian's vocals. Brian, for his distinctive singing voice and his strong Geordie accent. No, we're not talking about the group Geordie. The term Geordie is actually a nickname for a person from the area of northeast England. It's basically that kind of thing. Like if you're from northeast England, you have a Geordie accent. This is according
Mm.
to Wiki, and this is what I have found. Um, that's basically what he's known for. He's known for having that accent from Northeast England because I think he is from Northeast England now that I think about it. Um, so I'm not surprised. Brian does have a very distinctive voice. Like if you
Yeah,
listen to, like if you just hear a random song on the radio and you didn't know who it was, you could just look it up and be like, oh, okay, it's AC/DC and it's Brian Johnson era. Like he has that just a really distinctive voice, like a voice that's like no other.
it's kind of like bluesy.
Yes, and as he evolved, his voice did evolve a little bit. It did change a little bit. Um, matured a little bit, I guess you could say, is the term. Like, go and listen to Back in Black, and then you go and listen to Fly on the Wall, which is like, so if you go listen to like 1980 and then 1985, and then you go listen to Black Ice from 2008, you could definitely see the change. Like his voice definitely evolved over time. I probably missed an era. Like let's put Ball Breaker in there too from 1995. If you were to take those four albums, listen to them in order, as I told you, Back in Black, Fly on the Wall, Ball Breaker, and Black Ice, you can see his voice has changed and evolved over time, just like with a lot of singers do. And it changed for the good too. Like it definitely evolved for the good. I've seen some singers where their voice just fell apart as they got older.
Mm. It's like I know it's like off topic, but it's like Corey Taylor's voice, for example.
Mm.
Like over time, like he was like mixing drinking and smoking and stuff like that, and like the harsh vocals and stuff like that. It's like it was like hurting his throat so much and stuff like that. So it's like he had to go into like rehab and all that stuff. And it's like, I mean, Kent would probably tell you more than I would, but like he had to quit all of that stuff because it's like if he kept doing it and he tried to do the harsh vocals, it was literally gonna probably like kill his voice box sort of thing.
Yeah, his vocal cords would have been shot. Um,
Yeah.
Now, when you think of Brian, what's the first song that comes to mind? There is a lot of songs, so
Um, since we've already like listened to like Back in Black, Fly on the Wall, and Ball Breaker, Rocker Bus, but we're not going to mention that.
and Power Up.
Um, and Power Up. Uh, I would say, well, three come to mind. Um, Shoot to Thrill. Um, Thunderstruck,
From Razor's
and
Edge. That's a good one.
yeah, uh, and uh, Rock and Roll Ain't Noise Pollution.
Hey, that's a good one too. Okay. Um, so let me see. I guess I can name three. I've got Stiff Upper Lip from Stiff Upper Lip. We haven't listened to that album together yet,
Nope.
but I have listened to it on my own because I my dad has it, and I've heard it throughout my whole childhood. That's like the number one song I think of, Stiff Upper Lip, because like that was my go-to song as a kid. I loved it. Um, so Stiff Upper Lip. Um, I'd have to say Caught with Your Pants Down from Ballbreaker. I love
Oh,
that song
fuck.
right now.
Fuck.
I fucking
Oh,
love that
fuck.
song.
You
Um,
literally got caught with your pants down.
and obviously Fly on the Wall. If you can't go wrong with Fly on the Wall. It's criminally underrated. We're definitely going to do a breakdown episode of that very fucking soon. And I mean
Mhm.
very soon, like within the next couple weeks. It's so good. Um, so those are like the three songs that I think of when I think of Brian. So here's the ultimate question. What do you prefer? Bon Scott or Brian Johnson?
I kind of predicted, like, okay, some context here. I kind of knew my answer just going into this. Let's be honest here. Um, because point, point given, like, I grew up listening to Brian Johnson more than Bon Scott, but I'm gonna go with Brian Johnson. That's just me though. It's like I kind of know more Brian Johnson music and his vocals and stuff like that, only because I wasn't raised around like the Brian or the Bon Scott era of music or in AC/DC and stuff like that. Even though yes, we've been listening to AC/DC albums together, I just think like Brian Johnson's vocals have more of a punch to them, and they have more of a how am I saying this? More like a story behind it, sort of thing, behind the vocals, and it's like it makes you like just groove and makes you like just feel more like kind of alive, it's like his music, it's kind of like makes you like just want to like just stand up and dance one day, like to Fly on the Wall, for example. Like, you're just dancing and grooving. It's like, hey, what the hell is this song? And it's just Fly on the Wall. And it's like, oh, I know this song because it's like, it's Brian Johnson because you can hear his vocals, you know? So
Yeah,
that's just my pick. That's just my personal opinion. I mean, we're probably gonna disagree. Probably. I mean, we always do on these, but it's like,
I don't think so. Okay, so a little context here. I grew up with both. My dad is a huge Bon Scott fan, like huge. He loved the Bon Scott. He likes the Bon Scott era more than Brian Johnson. He told me that flat out because he grew up around that. My dad was and still is the ultimate AC/DC fan. All the albums, he's got a tattoo, he's got T-shirts, he's been to the concert, which is crazy. I've always wanted to go to an AC/DC concert. Like that is fucking huge. Um,
lucky, lucky.
my dad loves Bon Scott era stuff, and he tells me this all the time. And he prefers it over Brian Johnson. Yeah, I might be his daughter, but I love I love Bon Scott. My only issue is we didn't get enough of Bon, and it sucks to say that. Like there
That's what I'm
has
saying.
his death could have been avoided, and it's so fucking shitty to say that and to think about that because like if his death would have been avoided, God knows how many other albums we could have got with Bon Scott on it.
Mm, that's true. Yeah.
I love Bon Scott, but I am more familiar with Brian Johnson's stuff just because I kind of heard it more when I was a
Mm,
kid than I did with the
right.
Bon Scott stuff because obviously Brian Johnson was on more albums than Bon was. So I have to
Mm.
go with Brian on this one as well. I'm going to agree with you on this. Um, I love
Hey.
I love Brian's vocals. Although he's not a good lyricist, Bon Scott was the lyricist for the group. But once he passed, it kind of got passed over to Malcolm. Malcolm and Angus were in charge of that stuff. Brian was not the lyricist. He didn't come up with a lot of the lyrics. This was all mainly. Malcolm was the main leader of this stuff. So it's the only downside of this, but I do love Brian's vocals and it suits ACDC well. He definitely um, filled Bond's shoes in a good way. And he's carried on the AC/DC legacy forever. And he's set his name in stone as one of the best vocalists, along with Bon Scott, of course.
It's kind of rare on these that we agree on like some topic, like because like yes, like it's okay to disagree, but it's like when you do agree with somebody, it just makes it feel more special because it's like
Connected.
yeah, like connected because it's like yeah, like I kind of knew that you were gonna pick Brian as well because like we haven't listened to all of Bon Scott's AC/DC yet, and we'll get to that at a certain point. But it's like I think we're more synonymous with Brian and his vocals more than Bon Scott.
Bonds.
I mean, your dad, like all power to him being a Bon Scott fan, like all power to him on that. But it's like, just like what you like what you like, you don't
And not to
have to.
mention, I've always liked the 1985 look for Brian. Like,
Oh, brother.
don't even get me started on that. Like, wow, he
Hey,
was
don't
at his
get me
peak.
started on that.
He was at his fucking peak. Like, wow. Okay. Anyways, dinner hour for Bon Scott versus Brian Johnson. Who do you guys prefer? Let us know in the comments. Are you more of a classic Bon Scott fan from the 70s, or are you more of a modern day Brian Johnson fan like us? Let us know in the comments or even on social media. I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. So, before we close out tonight's episode, two things. Number one, our next episode. This Sunday will be November 13th. Now, any wrestling fan knows November 13th is a very sad but important day to remember. And I figured, why not do this episode? we're going to do an in remembrance episode for the late great Eddie Guerrero, who tragically had passed away on November 13th at the age of 38. Um, we are going to do an in remembrance episode, basically talking about his best moments, best matches, funny moments, just everything Eddie. Yes, we have done a Let's Talk Eddie Guerrero episode in the past, but this is going to be a completely different episode. This is not like a biography episode like we did with Let's Talk. Doing
Mm-hmm.
basically just like best moments, favorite matches, funny moments, that kind of thing. And I figured we'd do that for this Sunday, since ironically, our episode falls on his anniversary of his passing. So it's gonna be a good episode. Might shed some tears, might shed some laughs, but it's gonna be a really good episode. And I hope you guys tune in, especially if you're an Eddie Guerrero fan like me and Dystro here.
Yeah, it's like it's so weird to say now that like in 2005 he passed away. Like it's like you would think like, you know, he's healthy and you know he's like in the best
In the
shape of
prime
his
of his
life.
life.
Like yeah, the prime of his life. He was jacked. He was like he was at his
Gone in the blink.
it's just so
It's just odd how he had passed in just a blink of an eye like that. Like, one moment he's fine wrestling a match with Mr. Kennedy on SmackDown, of all things, and the next thing you know, he's gone. Just a matter of a couple days later.
yeah. It's gonna be a good episode. It's gonna be like a very chill kind of like
Episode.
episode.
And it's good to do that on a Sunday. Sundays are always a good day to reflect and just talk about something that, means a lot to you like that.
Mm.
So if you guys are interested in seeing that this Sunday, be sure to tune in, especially if you're an Eddie Guerrero fan just like us. So, number 2, song of the night. Dystro, you have our song of the night, so I will hand the reins to you.
Okay, so I'm torn between two songs, okay?
Like usual.
Yes, like usual. Typical me. So I've been on a Duran Duran and Tears for Fears kicked lately. So I will probably save one for like when I do the pod song of the night, next week sort of thing. I am going to go with Duran Duran, and it's going to be Ordinary World.
I was actually just listening to that yesterday. I'm not a huge fan of Duran Duran, but I do like some of their stuff, and that is one of the songs I like. It's really good.
Mm.
So
It's like, like I was on that kick a little bit. I was like, okay, yeah, I gotta get it out of my mind. I was like, okay, gotta put it on the episode.
So there you have it. That is tonight's song of the night. If you guys want to hear Ordinary World by Duran Duran, be sure to click on the top right hand corner of the video. It should be towards the end to go listen to the music. So, if you guys stuck around to the very end, we greatly appreciate your support as usual. Be sure to go follow us on social media by clicking on the link in the description below, which will take you to the link tree, which is everything there that you guys need, such as TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, and Dystro's gaming YouTube channel. So be sure to go and follow us on there to keep up to date with the podcast in case something goes wrong and we can't upload. So that's it. Thank you guys for listening. Listen to the song of the night, and we will catch you guys this Sunday. Peace.
Peace.